Marry me.
Not a question from someone used to looking down at the world. Not an order from someone used to being obeyed. Just 4 words, said plain and straight. But those gold eyes, the ones that had made decisions in boardrooms and battlefields without flinching, were full of the most careful, most vulnerable thing I had ever seen on him. I smiled. My left hand was shaking when I lifted it. But my grip was steady when I slid that ring, heavy with everything it meant, onto my ring finger. It fit perfectly.
Yes! He did it! Lily is our lady of the house! She's officially ours!
Ash, who had been physically vibrating with the effort of keeping quiet for 30 seconds, detonated. He launched himself off the step with a shriek of pure joy, 3 feet off the ground at least, and threw himself into both of us at once. His 2 beautiful gold tails snapped out like whips, one locking around my left wrist, the other wrapping tight around Sebastian's leg, binding the 3 of us together in the narrow entryway in one chaotic, warm knot. And in that moment, through my tear-blurred vision, I watched the severe and untouchable dragon sovereign finally, genuinely, smile. Not performed. Not controlled. Just real, and brilliant, and completely unguarded. At the peak of 2 worlds. Bound by fate. The second weekend after we made things official, Sebastian took me and Ash to the ancient Cross family estate deep in the forests outside the city. It was a residence in the oldest sense of the word, surrounded by sweeping private grounds so green they almost didn't look real. The moment Ash got through the door, he switched on full showman mode. He led the way, and every time he encountered one of the ancient dragon elders, people who had lived longer than recorded history and carried themselves like it, he would stop, puff out his small chest, and make a formal introduction at full volume.
Attention everyone! Take a good look! This is Lily, the future First Lady of the Cross family. She belongs to me first, and then to my brother. This was my idea. I have first claim.
The ancient dragon power brokers, the kind who moved realms with a word, stood there with their dignity visibly twitching, beards practically vibrating with restrained outrage, and said absolutely nothing, because the Dragon King was right there. Sebastian trailed the whole procession from the back, hands in his pockets, expression neutral, making 0 effort to rein his little brother in. Near the end of the tour, the eldest of all the elders, ancient beyond measure and seated in a wheelchair, paused beside me. He studied me for a long time with eyes that had seen everything this world had to offer, golden and deep with centuries. Then he turned to Sebastian and said something in old dragon tongue, quiet and unhurried. Sebastian listened. He looked over at me, and the warmth behind his eyes was almost more than he could hold in.
He says your soul smells like home. In a world this cold and this cruel, he says you've lit a light that doesn't go out.
The elder's words settled through the vast, ancient hall like something the room had been waiting to hear, and the last of the tension I'd been carrying in my body since we arrived finally let go. Ash lifted his chin with absolute vindication, his warm little gold tail looping once around my wrist as if to announce to the room that he'd known this all along. The dragon elders who had been watching me with such careful, assessing eyes exchanged glances, and while nobody exactly broke into smiles, the heavy aristocratic disapproval they had walked in with had quietly, completely lifted. Life settled into a kind of steadiness I'd never really known before. With the old apartment gone, I moved into the main estate for good. Aside from handling community outreach reports for the Business Council's Human District Division, most of my days were taken up by 2 very clingy dragons. For example, every single evening, at the exact moment I started making dinner, a tall shadow and a short shadow appeared in the kitchen doorway without fail. Ash stood on his custom step stool, had both shining gold eyes locked on the cutting board and was providing non-stop commentary.
Brother, your heat is too high when you caramelize the sugar. You're going to burn the ribs. When Lily does it, the color comes out this perfect, shiny golden brown.
Sebastian stood at the stove with the expression of a man navigating the most delicate diplomatic crisis in 2 realms, a spatula held with rigid precision.
Ash, be quiet.
I'm not being dramatic. You literally cannot cook. You are so bad at this.
I was sitting at the kitchen table with a hot cocoa, my shoulders shaking because I refused to laugh in front of him. These past 2 years, Sebastian had found his way into this kitchen using any excuse he could come up with, working through every dish I knew how to make, always with that perfectly maintained story about Ash's nutritional needs, and always managing to find a reason to let his presence, that very deliberate, very warm dragon essence, press up against the edges of whatever space I was in. Like right now. He turned around and held out a plate of apple slices he'd cut into small rabbit shapes, each one clean and even.
Try one. I cut them just now.
His voice was low and smooth. His fingertips took their time crossing mine when he handed the plate over, a slow, deliberate brush that left a trail of warmth. Ash made a noise of pure offense.
Cheating! He's doing the apple cutting thing again to get on Lily's good side.
Life had become sweet and easy, and that was exactly when the leftover wreckage of the past decided to find a new way back through the door. Late on a Sunday night, a loud, frantic pounding shook the estate's heavy black and gold gates, followed by high-pitched screaming. I threw on a coat and got downstairs to find the blackguard had already intercepted whoever was causing the scene. When I stepped out and saw the woman's face clearly, wild-eyed and contorted with rage, my stomach sank. It was the woman Derek had married in a hurry not long ago, chasing the social connections he'd always wanted. She looked completely unraveled. Her makeup had washed down her face in the rain. The second she spotted me, she tried to shove past the guards and come at me, screaming,
Lily! You shameless little gutter rat! Don't stand there acting innocent! Derek hasn't come home in days! Every investor has pulled out of our deals! This has your fingerprints all over it! You and your rich boyfriend! Get out here and face me!
I looked at my freshly cleaned entryway and the new rug she had already tracked mud across, and the last of my patience snapped. I walked straight to her, grabbed a fistful of her hair at the back of her head, and pulled. She screamed. I didn't let go.
Do not project your own playbook onto everyone else. Derek is not here. If you ever force your way onto private property and pull this again, I will personally drop you in Elliott Bay. Now get out!
I put everything I had into shoving her back through the door and out into the mud. She shrieked from the ground and didn't stop, and that's when I noticed the two uniformed police officers standing directly behind her. The older one stepped forward, badge out, looking at me with the expression of someone who had already made up his mind.
Miss Lily, this woman filed a report at the station earlier this evening. She's alleging unlawful detention and deliberate business interference. And we just watched you assault a pregnant woman on camera, which does not look good.
The woman scrambled behind the officers and arranged her face into something tearful and wounded, but underneath the tears, there was a smile she could not quite hide. I was 2 seconds from telling the officer exactly what I thought about his assessment when a large hand came down on my shoulder from behind. Sebastian stepped out. His gold hair moved in the night air of the hallway, and those dark gold eyes carried the flat, absolute calm of a verdict being read. He didn't glance at the woman once. He took a document from inside his coat and slapped it down in front of the senior officer.
Officers, please read the documentation. 3 weeks ago, after Derek Nash made repeated public defamatory statements and engaged in physical harassment against my fiancée, against him and his household.
The sheer weight of his presence made both officers stand straighter without realizing it.
Tonight she violated private property, caused property damage, and filed a knowingly false police report.
If she is not removed from these premises, my legal team will be filing a misconduct complaint against both of you, with the chief of police first thing tomorrow morning.
The two officers looked at each other, then looked at the Cross family seal pressed into the document. Their attitude changed completely. They took hold of the screaming woman firmly and got her into the patrol car. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next afternoon, I just finished going through the latest high-level Dragon Force training files with Ash at the estate when Hannah's number lit up my phone with the urgency of someone with very bad news and no way to soften it.
Lily, something serious happened. Derek's wife, the one who was at your door last night, she got into the Cross family's core commercial development office in the city center this afternoon. No one knows how she got in yet. She allegedly poisoned something on the premises and deliberately harmed people. 2 innocent reception staff are in the hospital right now.
My expression went cold.
She's unhinged. What does that have to do with me?
The worst part is that when they caught her, she was screaming that you ordered her to do it, that you orchestrated the whole thing as the future lady of the house. The victims' families have already hired an attorney for the disciplinary hearing. If you, as the named party, refuse to cooperate, the fallout could directly affect your official registration with Sebastian.
I had worked too hard and come too far to let 2 desperate, cornered people drag me and Sebastian's future down into their mess. I pressed my thumb against the faint warmth of the dragon scale ring on my finger. I held the anger down where no one could see it and kept my voice level. I'm on my way. I ended the call, got in the car, and drove to the hearing. I wanted to see for myself exactly what this pair, with nothing left and nowhere else to go, thought they were going to do to me. The moment I walked into the executive office of the development division, the air inside was so heavy it felt like it had already gone sour. What I didn't expect was the sight in front of me. The woman who had been screaming and clawing at my door just days before was now sitting quietly in the corner, strangely calm. The second she saw me walk in, her eyes went red and puffy. and she shuffled toward me with a pathetic little tremble, actually reaching out to grab my arm.
Lily, I know I was wrong. Those people in the division looked down on me first. I never meant to hurt them. I swear I didn't know it was poison. Please, you have to help me.
The whole performance, the wide eyes, the shaking voice, every bit of it, made my stomach turn. I knew exactly what she was doing. Every time someone like her suddenly acts fragile in front of an audience, it means something uglier is being set up behind the scenes. Right now she just wanted to stand here in front of everyone and reframe me as her backer and mastermind, using the Cross family name to drag herself out of a criminal charge. The victims' families and their senior disciplinary attorney across the table weren't buying any of it. They dropped a thick stack of injury documentation photographs onto the table without saying a word.
Since the Dragon King's fiancé has seen fit to join us, let's go by Dragon Clan law. Poisoning under the Shifter legal code carries a permanent revocation of core assets and a life sentence.
I looked at the injury report and had already taken apart every angle of her scheme in my head, to make sure this ugly criminal mess didn't create unnecessary complications at next Monday's Supreme Registry. I pushed down everything I felt and spoke calmly, as the future lady of the house.
I apologize. Whatever the cause, the harm has been done. As the future head consort of the Cross family, I will personally cover all medical costs and ongoing psychological treatment for the victims in full.
I signed the compensation agreement and supplementary penalty documents on the spot. Once the family representatives and the hearing officials cleared out, the heavy alloy door of the executive office clicked shut from the inside and locked. The locked room was dim. The woman who had been playing the fragile, weeping victim just moments before dropped the act completely. The look that replaced it was something colder and uglier than I'd seen even at my door. She rose from her chair and fixed me with eyes that had gone entirely unhinged.
Lily, you two-faced little snake! Don't stand there playing the gracious lady of the house.
Derek hasn't come home in days. He's bankrupt. Every investor has pulled out. He's a pariah in the entire industry. And that's all on you! Is he sneaking back to you behind my back? Is he crawling back into your bed?
That last line came out as an actual scream, her face twisted in the half-dark like something you'd see in a nightmare. I watched her come apart, and on instinct took a step back, my hand moving toward the defense tool in my pocket. But before I could get there, the woman let out a sick, delighted laugh, her eyes full of a grotesque satisfaction. Slowly, from the pocket of her oversized maternity hoodie, she pulled out a long, thin syringe glinting with a cold silver light. Inside it, a dark red liquid, shot through with an unnatural black shimmer. The moment I recognized what was in that syringe, my blood went cold. Years ago, when I was working as a senior executive secretary for Derek's company and handling sensitive business dealings, I'd come across internal research files on banned substances. What she was holding was a half-synthesized dragon blood suppressor, prohibited and supposedly destroyed by both realms. Injected into an ordinary human and the body rejects it violently. The contamination spreads fast, blood corruption, black veins surfacing under the skin, and in comprehensive screening it flags as a hazardous contaminated individual. She hadn't come here just for the reception staff. That had been the opening act. This was her real play, the one she'd been holding back for me. She didn't want to kill me. She wanted to walk me into next Monday's registration hearing in front of every elder in the Dragon Clan and have the tests come back flagged. Dirty. Dangerous. A contaminated source that had no business anywhere near Sebastian. The woman's face went paper white in under a second. Whatever she had built her plan around had just been dumped in front of her in pieces, and her mind could not catch up. She was shaking so hard with fear that the syringe slipped. As it fell, the needle sliced across her own wrist in the chaos. The dark red liquid seeped directly into the cut. She let out a scream that didn't sound like it came from a human being. The black veins spread under her skin instantly, crawling and branching as the contamination tore through her system and the drug started doing exactly what it had been designed to do. Sebastian watched without a flicker of anything on his face. He raised one hand and flicked it, casual and absolute. A clean pulse of pale gold dragon power hit Derek across the face like a slap from something godlike, the kind that leaves no room for argument, landing precisely as Derek was trying to crawl toward my feet. The crack of it echoed through the room. Derek didn't even have time to scream. He hit the marble floor face first and went limp, completely out. The royal guards and the chief dragon tribunal judge finally poured into the room, took one look at the black-veined woman and the bloodied heap on the floor, and the lead judge's expression curdled into something deeply uncomfortable.
Sovereign, the use of banned substances makes this a serious offense, but deploying Dragon Core power in a private development building In the presence of a pregnant woman, a formal hearing explanation.
The woman, the moment she saw the judge, dropped to her knees and dissolved into tears, pointing her finger straight at me.
Your Honor! Lily set me up! She's been bitter about being left for years! She had the Dragon King abduct my husband. And she was going to use that needle to kill me. And steal my family! She's the one who should be on trial!
Before I could even open my mouth to defend myself against the woman's flawless victim routine and the judge's stiff line of questioning, Sebastian let out a single, quiet, contemptuous laugh. He raised one finger and drew it slowly through the air. A massive black and gold holographic display tore itself open across the entire ceiling of the executive office. The footage it showed was the Cross Estate's concealed surveillance array, recording in high definition, from the previous night up through the last few minutes. Every frame of it was there. The woman pounding on the estate gates and screaming the night before. Her locking the door from the inside with practiced ease. The moment she pulled the syringe out and smiled, and the complete, unedited audio of her telling me exactly what she planned to do, exactly how the contamination would make me fail every screening at Monday's registry, exactly how she intended to make sure I would never be considered fit to stand beside Sebastian. Even the moment she drove the black-tinged needle toward my throat had been captured and magnified until it filled the projection, crisp and undeniable. The room went so silent you could hear your own pulse. The chief judge stared at the footage with embarrassment and shock written across his face in equal measure, sweat running down his temple. Sebastian's voice was quiet. It carried the weight of a verdict from someone who has never once needed to raise it.
The drug in that syringe, its serial number, its formula, and every access point it passed through, traced directly to an illegal laboratory under Derek Nash's ownership. The locked room in this building was pre-arranged by people he bribed on the inside. My blackguard transferred the complete chain of evidence to the tribunal an hour ago.
He turned his head. Those dark gold eyes swept over the two people on the floor.
She walked into a trap of her own making because she didn't get the needle into Lily's body in time.
The chief judge's spine bent sharply forward, his composure completely gone.
Lady Consort, we were far too quick to take a one-sided account. This crime, deliberately attempting to poison and contaminate the Dragon King's fiancée, combined with trafficking a prohibited substance, will be taken over by the Supreme Court immediately and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
I rolled the stiffness out of my fingers, which had gone cold from the prolonged standoff, and watched the royal guard step forward, clap deadlock restraints onto the still screaming woman and the unconscious Derek, and drag them both out. What I felt in that moment, beyond the deep, settled relief of being protected, came down to two words: they deserved it. The heavy alloy doors of the hearing building. The black and gold car pulled up smoothly in front of the Academy's ancient dragon-carved main gates. When I stepped out on Sebastian's arm and looked at those familiar gates, something in me went quiet for a moment. A few months ago I had stood in this exact spot. I was wearing a faded old coat, holding a $9 instant cocoa, wedged between a row of high-end nannies and luxury cars, completely out of place, like a punchline that had accidentally walked into a room where it didn't belong. Back then, Derek had leaned against his sports car and made it clear I wasn't worth being seen with. Now the Academy's director had brought every member of senior staff to the gate and lined them up to welcome us. After bowing to Sebastian, they turned to me and lowered their heads with the same formal gravity.
Welcome back to Emberwell Training Academy, Sovereign. Welcome, Lady Consort.
Lady Consort. Same gates. Same act of showing up for a child. One version of that story gets framed as the work of a cheap hired nanny. The version that belongs to someone who actually lives at the top gets recognized for what it always was, the highest mark of trust a dragon bloodline can place in a human. I glanced sideways at the man standing next to me. Stunning, composed, with the kind of presence that could fill a hall without trying, and who had quietly built a protective sky over me wide enough to cover two realms. My mouth curved into a slow, unhurried smile. I wasn't here to attach myself to anyone or earn anyone's approval. I was here because a certain small dragon had wrapped his tail around me for 3 consecutive nights and chosen me as his one and only safe nest. And because the Dragon King had claimed me by proper and public declaration as the one and only lady of both realms. Out on the elite training grounds at the center of the main hall, Ash stood in his black and gold junior training uniform, blazing among the other young dragons like a lit match. The second he spotted me, Those bright gold-slit eyes lit up so completely that every bit of his practiced aloofness fell apart on the spot. He shot up onto his toes and waved at me like he was trying to flag down an emergency vehicle.
Lily, I'm right here!
I smiled and walked toward him, and in that moment, every sharp edge that class and judgment had ever tried to cut me with had no more power to reach me at all. Ash essentially broke into a sprint and launched himself into my arms, hitting me hard enough to push me back half a step. Sebastian's hand came around from behind me immediately, settling at my waist with an ease that looked completely natural, steady and warm. He looked down at the two of us, and one corner of his mouth lifted into something quiet and deeply fond. Ash had grown a lot since the first time I saw him, and there was a sharpness to the way he carried himself now, the early edge of a high-ranking dragon taking shape. But the moment he had his arms around me, he buried that beautiful face of his in the curve of my shoulder exactly the way he always had. That distinctive gold tail slipped out from under the hem of his uniform and wrapped around my left wrist with the ease of long muscle memory. A ripple of low murmurs moved through the viewing gallery around us. Once a dragon reaches 7 years old, the tail becomes the deepest instinctive line of self-defense, tied to the core of their survival. Ash paid zero attention to any of it. He just tipped his shining face up at me.
Are you gonna watch the old comprehensive training showcase today?
Of course. I came specifically to watch our little lord win a medal.
His ear tips went pink in approximately 1 second. He covered it immediately by squaring his small shoulders and walking back to the front of the group with great dignity while everyone around his age watched him with naked envy. The training showcase that followed was extraordinary. High-altitude flight, control of volatile dragon breath, precise retraction and extension of his scales, all of it executed without a single flaw. Every time the applause peaked, the first thing he did was not look at the judges on the platform. He swung his head around and found my face in the crowd. I gave him a thumbs up. The tip of his tail whipped behind him so fast it blurred. It hit me then, slower than it should have. Being the one thing a living creature relies on completely, with absolutely nothing held back, might be the most irreplaceable gift this world has to offer. After the Guardian Day celebrations wrapped up, the director and several senior figures extended an invitation for the highest-tier lady consort's formal banquet. I thanked them and declined with a smile. I couldn't entirely explain it, but standing at the absolute center of all that luxury and attention, what I felt most strongly was a pull toward somewhere else entirely. Toward the small, worn, drafty old apartment in Ash Grove, the one where the heating had never quite worked right. Because that was where everything had actually started. I pulled out my phone and sent Sebastian a message. I want to go back to our old apartment and see it one more time. 3 seconds later, his voice came through on audio, low and warm.
I'll come with you.
Half an hour after that, the long black car rolled quietly to a stop in the familiar neighborhood. The door swung open. Inside, everything was exactly how we'd left it the night we moved out. The window frame held together with tape, the worn sofa, the narrow little kitchen. Sebastian stepped in, ducking his head slightly from force of habit, and with complete naturalness switched into the pink cat print flip-flops waiting by the door, which he had absolutely never admitted belonged to him. He came and sat down on the floor next to me, back against the old sofa cushions, long legs stretched out on the rug. 6 feet of Dragon King, wrapped in the old blanket I'd once forced on him, eyes soft in the low light in a way that didn't match a single thing else about him.
I think about this place a lot.
This place is a wreck. The heat broke twice. What's worth thinking about?
Sebastian tilted his head slightly toward me, brilliant gold hair brushing my cheek. He took my right hand and turned it over slowly, his thumb tracing the edge of the reverse scale ring.
The day you were teaching me to make ribs, I was standing in your 3-square-meter kitchen, and for the first time in my entire existence, I found myself completely useless at something that had nothing to do with running 2 realms. And it was also where you handed me a pink hair tie and didn't have a single O behind it.
His voice dropped a little lower, pulled tighter.
Lily, this is the first place I ever felt like I didn't have to be some untouchable Sodran. Like being your family, yours and Ash's, was actually enough.
I leaned my head against Sebastian's broad, solid shoulder and listened to the steady beat of his heart, unhurried and sure. Outside the window, the lights of the neighborhood below came on one by one through the rain, soft and ordinary and perfect. The apartment was small. It was plain, but it held the most unguarded, most honest version of every beginning between us. Time, when you're living it in that kind of warmth, has a way of moving faster than it should. The Supreme Registry and the formal Lady Consort declaration that followed made waves across both realms. The wedding itself was private and sacred and everything it needed to be. Under the absolute protection of the Cross family bloodline, every shadow of my past was finally and thoroughly closed. I put all of myself into the work, leveraging years of experience in senior international executive roles to build a real foothold in the cross-realm business and public welfare councils. I eventually rose to lead director on several major initiatives. The Lily who had stood at a subway entrance and let a few cruel words crush her into silence had become someone else entirely in the years that followed. With stability, discipline, and the kind of care that comes from being truly loved, I was leaner, stronger, and brighter than I had ever been. Every time I walked into a room, the room knew it. And in the 3rd year of our marriage, the estate welcomed the one thing all of us had been holding our breath for, the small life that belonged to Sebastian and me. The night I went into labor, the entire master suite of the castle was sealed under the royal dragon defensive barrier. I lay on the wide bed, my forehead damp with the effort, and every time I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was Sebastian, kneeling at the bedside. Both hands, traced with the core dragon markings, locked around mine, not once letting go. His dark gold eyes were flushed with a blood gold edge he couldn't control, tight with the particular terror of someone trying to hold themselves together when the one thing that matters most to them is in pain. Then a cry split the air, clear and bright, with just the faintest trace of a dragon's resonance underneath. The obstetric official dropped to her knees, both hands raised, cradling the wrapped bundle.
Congratulations, Sovereign. Congratulations, my lady. A healthy baby girl, with a dragon core, of truly extraordinary strength.
Outside the windows, the night sky broke open in streaks of gold, the kind that only appear as an omen of something sacred. Ash, who had been pacing outside the door long enough for his tail to be fully puffed out from the stress, heard the cry and shoved the door open and was simply there. He looked at the tiny baby kicking her pink feet in the bundle, the ghost of 2 small white jade dragon horns just barely visible at the top of her head, and his gold-slit eyes went incandescent. That long road crossing every boundary of world and blood had finally arrived at the most brilliant, most complete continuation of everything it had been building toward. The little princess's arrival sent the entire Cross estate into a celebration unlike anything it had seen before. In the warm light of the delivery room, I rested against the pillows, not quite having the energy for much else, and watched Sebastian hold her. The hands that moved through both realms' business and politics without mercy were now impossibly careful, impossibly gentle. The baby seemed to feel the power of his dragon essence even in her first minutes of life, blew a small bubble, and nuzzled one of those tiny white jade horns against his palm like she already knew exactly where she was. Ash was pressed against the edge of the bed, his bright gold eyes fixed on his sister so intensely he'd forgotten to breathe loudly. Then, very seriously, he turned to look at me. The 1-month celebration bothered telling. With everything cleared out, life became genuinely, cleanly good. Before I knew it, the little princess was 1 year old, toddling across the marble floors on chubby, determined legs. She had inherited Sebastian's bloodline in full force, and while she was sweet and soft-looking, her personality had come out somewhere between Ash at his most stubborn and a small dragon who had very decided opinions. Any time she was displeased, she would lower those tiny white jade horns and headbutt the nearest available palm. One winter evening, rain tapping at the windows, I finished up the last of the public welfare reports for the business council and walked into the living room. What I found there stopped me in the doorway. Ash was sitting cross-legged on the rug, dangling a string of bright gemstones to entertain his little sister, who was watching it with enormous concentration. And the Dragon King, who between clan affairs and business matters ran both realms with zero tolerance for inefficiency, was standing in the kitchen doorway in the pink cat flip-flops, wearing the Hello Kitty apron, carrying a perfectly arranged plate of rabbit-shaped fruit with the focused expression of someone managing a critical situation.
Lily, I adjusted the sweetness for your evening preferences.
He set the plate down and looked at me, his dark gold eyes catching the lamplight with an expression so unguardedly warm it could have drowned me in the best way. I walked over and wrapped my arms around him from behind, pressing my face against the solid warmth of his back. The muscle beneath my hands was all tensile strength and absolute reliability, and it grounded me the way it always did.
Sebastian, thank you for giving me a real home.
He turned off the stove and turned around, folding me in completely, his chin resting on top of my head, his voice carrying a quiet vibration that I felt more than heard.
I told you, the mate bond does not choose wrong. Even if you hadn't taken Ash in at that subway entrant, my dragon core would have found its way to you, through every layer of this world and bound you to me for life anyway.
After the lady consort registration was formalized, Sebastian had the old apartment sealed under a permanent top-level defensive barrier. As Ash put it, that was where everything started, and nobody was ever going to disturb it. As the little princess grew day by day, Ash grew right alongside her. His training pack got upgraded to the advanced level, and the way he moved through a room had taken on more and more of the composed authority of a core cross family heir. But every time he came home from the academy, his first move was always to drop the heavy pack on the sofa and head straight for the kitchen to see what was on for dinner. One evening, while he was tearing apart some greens to help me prep, he kept his eyes down and asked, in a tone that was trying very hard to sound offhand.
You and my brother have been married for a while now. You're definitely never gonna leave this family, right?
I looked at the leaves he'd accidentally mangled from nervous hands and understood immediately. No matter how tall he got, no matter how much of the composed young dragon lord he became, in this kitchen he was still the small boy with cold red hands waiting at the alley entrance for someone to bring him something warm. I reached over and knocked gently on his head, then caught the faintly pink tip of his ear between my fingers.
You ridiculous little goose. I'm wearing the Reverseville scare. Ring, where exactly do you think I'm going? This is my legally registered home territory. You'd have to physically remove me, and I still wouldn't go.
His eyes lit up, brilliant in gold, in about half a second. He turned away immediately and made a low, deeply satisfied sound in his throat, and the tip of his tail carved a bright arc through the air behind him. In this world built on fate and dragon fire, the choice he had made on a cold evening outside a school alley was being answered every single day, with exactly the happiness it deserved. His setting sun turned the floor-to-ceiling windows of the main estate into a wash of deep gold and crimson, making the whole castle look like something that had been lifted out of the world and set down somewhere better. The home we had properly and completely made our own was full of the smell of dinner. The Dragon Clan's high-level barrier kept the interior at a steady, comfortable warmth, cutting off every trace of the winter outside. I dried the last teacup, set it down, and walked back out to the living room. I barely made it 2 steps before 2 enormous, brilliantly gold-scaled dragon tails came in from opposite sides and wrapped around me at the same time, warm and sure and completely without apology, until I was thoroughly claimed by both of them. On my left wrist, coiled there with that particular heat of someone who has been doing this long enough to know exactly where they belong, Ash, who was now in secondary school, whose slit pupils had grown into the same composed authority as Sebastian's, but who in this room was still and always would be the proud, secretly soft little boy who had once stood in a cold alley and waited for someone to bring him a hot drink. At my ankle, steady and burning, pressing the kind of warmth into my bones that doesn't fade, Sebastian, fresh out of the study, every trace of the sovereign set aside. His dragon essence moved through his scales and into me, grounding and warm in a way that made the whole body relax. 2 gold tails, one on the left and one on the right, above and below, wrapped a lifetime of safety around the place where I stood at the center. Both of them were warm, like 2 suns that had decided to burn only for me. Right in the middle of all that unbearable, wonderful warmth, the little princess sat on the rug with her pigtails, her white jade horns, and her half-eaten rabbit apple slice, let out a decisive little sound, got herself up on all 4s and toddled over to climb into my lap. Ash's tail tip gave her small foot an unimpressed little tap.
You've got your own dragon nest, little one. Stop trying to steal the spot next to Mimi beside Lily.
The little princess puffed her cheeks out at him and drove her not quite fully developed dragon horns into the back of his hand, her tiny voice absolutely certain.
Brother mean. Lily is Mama. Mama belongs to everybody.
Sebastian leaned over the back of the sofa, pulled me in a little closer, and let his mouth drop close to my ear, voice low and thoroughly pleased with itself.
Both of you stop fighting over her. The wrist positions can be shared. Her right hand is mine.
I sat in the center of the sofa and looked at the 3 pairs of identical beautiful gold-slit eyes in front of me, all slightly different ages and sizes, all completely and unreservedly mine. My eyes went warm in a way I couldn't stop, but my mouth curved higher than it had any right to. Whatever this life had thrown at me to get here, it turned out that the universe knew what it was doing after all. The people who had laughed at me and pressed me down and tried to bury me with their contempt were somewhere in the dark collecting what they were owed. And my heart, held inside the boundless, uncompromising love of the Cross family, had been healed so thoroughly that everything was clear and still and fully at peace. This world holds. That was exactly right.